Hey, this is Marc Goldberg from Marc Vlogs Watches, and I'm sitting here with Jupiter. Oops, I think I just ruined the quick wristwatch check, but oh well, let's get it out of the way. It is the Tudor Black Bay Burgundy ETA edition. And in this video, I'm going to ramble on about how I get my morning started, thoughts about life, liberty, and the pursuit of horology. Let's get started. You know, I'm just sitting here with the morning coffee. It's a frigid day outside. Jupiter's enjoyed a little bit of breakfast. Hey, buddy. You know, but this is one of those moments in the morning when I'm just sort of like getting my life started. I want your focus. What do you want? All right, come on up here. All right, now you'll be quiet. This is one of those moments when, all right, hold on. I'm juggling camera positions. And now I'm juggling a cat that literally wants to put his face in my face. But what I'm trying to say here is, there's a certain time of the day when, you know, when I'm just kind of getting started, getting the coffee going, and I tend to stare at my watch because there's a second hand that goes around and around. You know, I have to say probably that's why I'm not nearly as fond of watches that have the small seconds subdial, now that I think about it. I'm very susceptible to staring at things that go around and move. And there's more movement, there's a more dramatic movement on a large seconds hand. So I probably got to avoid chronographs with the, also you know, three-hand watches that where they have that small subdial for the seconds hand. That is a particular form of OCD because I have a front-loading washing machine, and if I'm not careful with a load of laundry in, I'll stare at it. Or you know the sprinklers that go back and forth? Yeah, I like to stare. I like to stare at those. Now, I don't mean to the point where I will collapse with exhaustion, you know, where I will ignore my nutritional, you know, needs and the needs of those around me, because that would not be true. But that's just the form, one of the forms in which my particular affliction manifests itself. And I'm sure it's one of the reasons that I really like mechanical watches. The quartz watches never quite did it for me in the same way. Also, it's probably why I really love a dive bezel. Hey, Jupy. I really love a dive bezel. I always call it my fidget spinner. It just gives me something to kind of play with. But this is the time of day when I sit, drink a little coffee. Jupiter gets breakfast. Today he had some kind of pate, chicken pate, with some actual chicken. Now in a previous video, I showed you guys how to make chicken soup. And so I usually have a Costco, I call it a Costco chicken, but actually it's Sam's Club. Because Sam's is just down the street. But I always have a Sam's Club chicken in the fridge, and me and the dogs and the cat, we kind of all eat off of that. And then if I'm in an ambitious mood at the end of the week, once it's kind of picked apart, I throw the carcass in a pot of boiling water and make soup. I sleep in a watch. And I feel naked if I don't have a watch. Yet, there was a period of at least 10 years where I didn't even put a watch on. And that was the first 10 years when iPhones came out. Something like that. Maybe it was a little less than 10 years. But for you know, for the, I call it the dark years. You know, the Swiss had the quartz crisis. I had the smartphone crisis where I just took the watch off one day and never put it back on. Then when I pick watches back up, I pick them up with a vengeance. And what I tend to do is stare at them. So I sleep in a watch. And the funny thing is that if I sleep in a watch, when I wake up, I kind of want to take that one off. Because I wore it for, you know, like 7, 8 hours, and I'm bored with it now. It's fun living inside my head. The watch that I sleep in, I call it my sleeping watch, and I can sleep in any of my watches really, but naturally I like the watches with the best illumination, you know, for sleeping purposes. And so I tend to really like the Ball World Timer, particularly for that. Particularly, we have to talk about that word, remind me. We're gonna come back, we'll swing back around. Talk about particularly. Anyway, I really like the Ball World Timer, so I'll drop a picture of it in. Because you can see that it has, you know, all that lume, so it's really easy to read. Or sometimes I wear the Toilet Oak. By the way, Bruce Williams just did a lovely review of the Toilet Oak. I'm going to put a link to his video in the description. You should check it out. You are probably already a subscriber to Bruce's channel. If you're not, then you should do it immediately. He makes great videos. So I tend to sleep in a watch. I have slept in this one, but I wouldn't be wearing it right now if I had slept in it last night. Last night I slept in that Ball World Time. Okay, the word particularly. I think we need to have a Marc Vlogs Watches drinking game. I watched my last video, the owner experience of the Polar Explorer. So go back and watch that. And I don't even know how many times I said particularly, but apparently I sprinkle it and pepper it throughout my videos. And it just sounded funny to me every time I heard it. Particularly when I was listening close. I mean, I come across it when I'm editing. So, I mean, I don't consciously try and say that word, but it sounds funny to me when I hear it in my own videos, and then I start to hear it. I hear it repeatedly. So how about a drinking game? It would be like taking a drinking game with the pontiff, where you just pick an expression and you do a shot every time he says it's all gone pear-shaped, you know, or something like that. Just a thought. This watch has a really interesting clasp. It's got the Tudor shield there, right at the claspy bit where that little protrusion sticks out and where the lettering is engraved. But then we have the shield shape at the very tip or end of the clasp itself also. And, you know, I'm doing all this brilliant camera work with my right hand, so I can't take the watch off right now. But there are additional shield shapes inside that clasp. And it has micro adjustments. Now, you can't make the micro adjustments on the fly like you could with a Submariner or a Pelagos, or you know, a strap code even. However, Joopy, calm down, buddy. However, micro adjustments are better than not having micro adjustments. And here is my favorite tool for making the micro adjustment. Now, there are channels who advise you. What? He's very talkative. He's also a little deaf, so he can't kind of, if he's got something to say, he can't even tell that he's saying it, I think. Okay, so you know what? He's also a little senile, which is why I'm very fond of this cat. I think he and I have a lot in common. There are channels who advise you to use a push pin, a thumbtack, a paper clip, a spring bar tool. Baloney. I think speaking of the pontiff, he got it right here too. He sells pontifical toothpicks for watch work. And the good thing about sticking one of these guys into your micro hole adjustment is you're not going to scratch your watch. And if you look at the average dude's watch with micro adjustments, not mine guys. If you look at the average guys, you're going to see tons of scratches around there from where you people have been poking at your watches with paper clips. You know, don't do that. You definitely want to use something non-scratchy. Now, another kind of funny thing about me, I guess, is the smudge factor. I don't like to see a lot of cat hair, thumbprints, and other sort of dirt on my watch. So I shower with a watch and I rotate through my watches, and so every one of my watches is going to get showered with. If you can't shower with a watch, like a, it doesn't have the water resistance for it, then I don't want that watch and I don't own that watch. You know what I'm curious about is the Speedy Man on the Moon, can you, not that I want that watch because it has the tiny sub-seconds and I don't know. I'm just not a big fan. I recognize it as an icon of the range, but it's not on my hit list. But, you guys, do you take it into the shower? Would you? Could you? If you can't, I don't want it. But what you really have to avoid, guys, is wearing a watch for years, letting it accumulate body cheese in those links, and then taking it to a watchmaker one day and asking him to add a link or subtract a link, and allowing him to deal with your DNA. That's just wrong. And every watchmaker will tell you that they have received watches filled with yeast and chunks of human skin cells. Jewelers, all the time, these guys are having to play with engagement rings, wedding rings, earrings that are just filled with body cheese. There is a really wonderful Facebook group for jewelers that I belong to. And these guys, they post pictures, of some of the most disgusting articles of jewelry that they've received filled with, what looks like encrusted earwax. Don't be that guy. Wash your watch once in a while, would you? Don't be abrasive. Don't get crazy. Just use a soft sponge or just your hands. They say a toothbrush, but if you're going to use a toothbrush to get into the nooks and crannies there, okay, that's fine. Just use buy the very softest bristled toothbrush and don't scrub, Like you don't want to take a Brillo pad to that. Okay, guys. Well, look, I just wanted to give you some morning thoughts while I was contemplating not my navel, but my Tudor Black Bay ETA version. Final thoughts. The reason that I just rebought this watch got entirely to do, I think, with X number of factors. One, it's got more wrist presence than a Submariner. I have two Submariners. They're pre-ceramic. I have a 2-line No Date sub, which no, Clyde, before you ask, you cannot buy it. It's sitting in the safe. And I have a Bluesy. By the way, I think the Pontiff who just bought a Bluesy should thank me because I had a Bluesy first. And also he just sold his Burgundy Black Bay. Was it a Burgundy or a black? I forget. But he had one of those and he sold it in order to acquire his Daytona. The Pontiff has just really rebooted the collection. He's got a magnificent collection of 4 or 5 Rolexes now. He got rid of all the dogs and he's got good stuff now. So check his channel out too. But look at the beautiful little smiley face where it says self-winding. I love the little smiley face. Now there is a newer version of this watch which looks virtually identical with the following exceptions. The lines of text they have slightly different wording and they are straight instead of that one line of curves. I love that line of curve though. And there's an in-house movement. Whereas this is a finely tuned ETA 2826, I think. I don't know. I'll stick a comment in here about what the movement is. But anyway, it's a finely tuned ETA movement, and the newer one has an in-house movement which has a longer power reserve. This one has like a 40-hour power reserve. The new one has about a 70-hour power reserve. But I have to say, I really like that little where it says self-winding in curved text. It's like the little smiley face. It's the happy part of the watch. And this watch becomes serious. Dare I say it, it becomes kind of grumpy, when you take the smile away. The crown tube is also in the same burgundy. It's anodized aluminum crown tube. Anyway, that's kind of the stuff that I love about this watch, that and the oyster style bracelet. Okay, guys, look, I have rambled on long enough. I just wanted to share some of the morning madness with you. Hope you guys have a great day. If you are not a subscriber here, please press the little button so that we can do this together again. If you are subscribed, hit the little bell so you are notified and you can be first fist in the comments. And once again, Goldberg, peace out. Before we go any further, 2 quick pieces of business. First,
I wrote a book. It's called Let Dogs Be Dogs. You can find it in bookstores everywhere and on Amazon.com. If you're interested in dogs and dog behavior, look at all those pages, and there's pictures.